The situation in Ferguson, Missouri has escalated even more from yesterday and the day before that. Protesters took to the streets over a police officer shooting and killing an 18-year-old unarmed black kid with his hands up in the air running away. Now, as we discussed the day after the shooting happened, the details are still somewhat sketchy in the situation because there's multiple different versions of the story, and the police took a long time to even tell their side of the story. You also have friends of Michael Brown, who is the deceased, who've given different versions, and eyewitnesses who are more objective, who didn't know anybody, didn't know the police officers, didn't know Michael Brown or his friends. And I personally think that their stories are spot on because they don't have any conflict of interest whatsoever. They just can say, hey, this is what I saw happen. And what we do know so far is Michael Brown was shot with his hands in the air. That's what we know as a matter of fact. All the other details may be filled in as time goes by, but we do know that an 18-year-old black kid was shot with his hands in the air and he's unarmed. So when the original protests broke out, there were some fringe people who took to looting. Unfortunately, we don't know whether or not those were people from other communities who came in and did looting and basically took advantage of the tragedy to do criminal actions. But what we do know is that even though there was a small amount of looting, it is without question a tiny minority of the entire protest movement. But now it appears as if the jury is 100% in terms of how the police are acting. And the reality is they have, without question, crossed the line. Or that's not even strong enough. They've crossed multiple lines. So, Huffington Post and Washington Post reporters were arrested and assaulted. The crime of the Huffington Post reporter was he didn't pack his bags quickly enough when a police officer busted into a McDonald's and said, "Everybody get out!" Without giving a reason. You had the reporter asking, well, what exactly is going on here? Can you tell me? And the police officer shouts him down and says, "Get out, get out, get out!" He tries to pick up his stuff fast enough. As he's walking out, he drops his briefcase, and they arrest him. Also, there are reports that another reporter was slammed into a soda fountain in McDonald's. We have an elected official, I believe his name is Antonio French, who's an alderman in the area. He was arrested because he, quote, didn't listen. Don't even know what that means. He was kept for 24 hours. He was just released. There were civilians screaming under assault from the cops, "I'm dying, I'm dying." The police used tear gas, rubber bullets. They shot it at protesters and reporters. Okay, and these were all peaceful protesters. Now, another witness has come out and contradicted the claims about the original shooting, which has led to these protests, which again kind of paints the picture even stronger that what we have here is a totally unjustified situation where a young black man was murdered. There are headlines on the internet going around that are referring to the situation as Baghdad, USA, because of how the cops are cracking down with brutal force. 16 people were arrested on Wednesday night. Police fired tear gas at Al Jazeera reporters. What is this, Egypt? Is that where we are right now? Is Ferguson, Missouri, Egypt? And the police just do whatever they want and they feel like they can get away with it? Here's how you know you crossed the line. Support for the reporters who were harassed and arrested. There were condemnations of the police officers that came from sources as varied as the Department of Justice and Ted frickin' Cruz. When you lose Ted Cruz, okay, you've gone way off the deep end. Now, to turn to the best news that we've gotten yet out of the situation, if you can call it yet, that, Democratic Governor of Missouri, Jay Nixon, has decided to relieve the St. Louis police of their authority, citing their abuses. I don't know. I don't know because I haven't seen any articles out about this since we got the news, but that may be unprecedented. right? And I think they said the state police are going to step in, the highway patrol or something are going to step in, and they're going to direct the counter-protest movement or whatever you want to call it. But look, you're doing it exactly wrong, the Ferguson police. Now, to be overly fair, there were, I believe, 2 examples. One of them is unverified. The other one is verified. The unverified is that a cop broke his ankle because a protester threw a brick. Okay, that's unverified. But if it is true, of course, you shouldn't fucking throw bricks. That goes without saying. And there was one other report of one dude, maybe with the help of one other lighting it, who threw a Molotov cocktail, and I don't even think it actually lit and it didn't work, right? Don't throw Molotov cocktails. Very, very simple. No Molotov cocktails, no brick throwing, no violence, no looting. That's it. But again, here's the reality. The overwhelming majority of the protesters are peaceful, and that's not according to me. That's according to all the reporters on the scene, right? But what are people doing? Well, conservatives are going, I see 9,762 peaceful protesters, 3 people looted. Goddamn savages around here, man. Look at these guys, animals running around. Really? Would you also say that the police officer who killed an unarmed 18-year-old black man with his hands in the air, is that a police officer an animal too? Is that police officer a savage? Oh, no, I didn't think so. You're silent on that one. Interesting. But there was an article in Think Progress earlier that really laid it out well, and they spoke to former and I think current officers in certain places from around the U.S. who have dealt with different big-time protests, anti-apartheid protests in the past and others. And basically, from law enforcement experts, their opinion is the police officers are doing the exact wrong thing. They are stoking more fear, more violence, because they're acting in an unjust fashion, and then the protesters are going to respond to the unjust faction and going to escalate the situation more, and then you're going to escalate the situation even more instead of de-escalating it from the beginning, and I don't know, not firing rubber bullets, not firing tear gas, not attacking peaceful protesters and reporters. Look, all clear-minded, reasonable Americans, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, we should all get together on this and say, you know, people like fucking Cliven Bundy, Tea Party members who care so deeply about tyrannical government, big government overreach. Here it is! Here it is, Slappy! And you're nowhere to be found. Where's Cliven Bundy? Is he going to the protests? Where's Fox News? What happened, man? I thought your big thing was, well, you know, we don't want big government coming in and being tyrannical. Well, when you have peaceful protesters getting tear gas and rubber bullets fired at them and reporters getting arrested, there's your tyranny! But of course they don't say it. Look, it's time for all people across America to rise up and say the First Amendment is not debatable. Let them protest. Let them speak their mind. For fuck's sake, they're angry about something they should be angry about. And look, credit to Governor Nixon in Missouri for taking these police officers off the case, because they clearly weren't doing the right thing. And all we could hope for from now on is that somehow the justice system prevails. We know it hasn't before, especially when dealing with issues of racism, but hopefully the justice system will prevail and we'll get justice against the unnamed officer, who's still unnamed, that ended up killing Michael Brown.